Welcome to an email that said, congratulations, Ginny, you won the lottery and you now have a spot on the LEC for 2024. JK. I wish that was the case, but that's definitely not how I got onto the LEC. So I hope you guys are ready and you have a drink or something in your hand, because today I'm gonna be breaking down the most asked question, and that is, how the fuck did you end up on the LEC? Let me tell you how I ended up on the LEC, because you might be looking at me and thinking, what the fuck went wrong there? But I get you. So it all started back in December of 2021. Actually, no, that's a lie. It started in November 2021. I was a little baby Twitch streamer, yappa in the chat, screaming at my teammates for being absolutely fucking dog shit. And I was like, damn, this streaming is not working out. I'm graduated. I have a full-time job. I am dying. I don't have enough energy to keep streaming anymore. I was stuck around 30 to 40 average viewers, and I was like, this is not it. This is not what I thought streaming would be. Unfortunately though, like that's the case for a lot of streamers. Like you get to a point and like you kind of like can't really push past that growth anymore, and it is what it is. I was at that spot. And then out of nowhere, I get this email that goes, you want to be on the broadcast? And this was not for League of Legends. This was actually for a game that was just released. And I was like, yeah, sure, sounds great. And they're like, awesome. We started negotiations. We finished on like the agreement in terms of like when I'll be going there, what I'll be doing, blah, blah, blah. Mind you, I have never hosted a fucking day in my life. I'm just yappa saying, yes, I got this. I can do it. Like then literally like 2 days before I was supposed to fly out, I get ghosted. And turns out they'd hire someone else, which happens, fine, whatever. But I was interested. My interest was piqued, and I thought that this could be a career that I would also be very much fucking interested in. So what I did is I was very lucky. I had friends at the time who were working on broadcast, and I messaged him and I was like, hi, I get asked to be a host. What the fuck is a host? And he was really kind, sat on a call with me, jumped into detail, told me what a host does, what it is they do, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great career. I want to do that. And he's like, okay, good luck. And I was like, thank you. Do you have any tips? And he's like, yeah, just do it. I was like, okay. So I think like 2 weeks after that, university esports team made a post that said that they were going to be doing this tournament. It was like a 3-day tournament for all the esports titles that they work in. So a CS, Siege, Rocket League, League of Legends, Dota. And it was like a 3-day event. So I messaged them, I was like, hi, are you guys looking for a host? And they said, no, we're not. And I was like, okay, sure, fine. If you're not looking for a host, that's fine with me. Thank you so much. Literally 1 week before the event starts, they messaged me, they're like, we're actually looking for a host. And I was like, fuck yeah. They're like, are you experienced? I'm like, of course I'm experienced. What? And I do the event and I host it and it goes really well. I get the thing. I like the whole event that I did. I chop it up into a 2-minute video as an esports reel and I post it on Twitter, and it actually does numbers. Like people were actually surprised that I hosted an event. Like I had like that 20, maybe 100 followers on Twitter. And by the end of that video, I like tripled my followers. And I was like, oh shit, this is kind of easy. And that's how I started. So I literally started grinding it out in the university scene. I was doing a lot of voluntary work as well. And then simultaneously, I was sending out a lot of cold DMs, left, right, and center, trying to get onto any broadcast possible that needs a host, because hosts, especially in tier 2, they aren't really needed. There's not a lot of work. So as a result, it was rough, but I got gig after gig after gig after gig. And it was amazing. It was great. And then it was June 2022, and I had secured my first ever international esports gig. This was in Poland, Wrocław, and it was for Streamers League GG. And I flew out for my first ever esports gig, and I did it, and it was amazing. I was really nervous at the start, but I think it went really well, and people were very kind, and it was just in general such an amazing experience for me to have. And I was like, wow, okay, like this could genuinely be it. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great time, but I kept on not streaming anymore. I gave up on streaming, actually. I gave up on TikTok. I gave up on Instagram. Only thing that I did was post any vlogs of any events that I worked, and I was also at the same time doing all the esports stuff. So the first 2022 year goes by, and I end the year with an absolute banger as a reporter on Red Bull home ground in Manchester. And that was like, to date, at that time, that was like my biggest ever esports events that I've worked, and I was absolutely ecstatic. On top of that, Ubisoft has invited me to host challengers for Siege, and that is basically like Ascension or like EMEA Masters if you're from League of Legends. And I was in their studio in Paris. It was during December and November, and it was incredible. It was an amazing experience. It was like one of my very first times working in a studio, and I had a fucking blast. So the most notable events that I did in 2022 was of course League of its own. I was also very lucky that I was allowed to do Insomnia, which then also set me up for success because the people saw me there and then hired me to do the stage hosting for the LEC Expo for the finals in Malmo. And that's where I met a lot of the rioters who then were like, oh yeah, you know, we'll keep you in mind for EMEA Masters next year. So 2022 was genuinely for me the building block. It was the start. It was where everything happened. Not really a lot of super notable events, except of course the Red Bull Homegrounds one in Manchester. Other than that, it was a lot of smaller, little, tinier events here and there that I was working, that I was trying to get my name out there. I did caster streams for Game Changers. I was never on a VCT product. And then 2023 comes. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I was working like a fucking dog and I loved it. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed every single bit of it. I was working so much to the point where I was working 30 days straight in April, and then I also worked 30 days straight in July. And the way this happened was because I was working multiple, and still am working multiple titles. Ubisoft has genuinely set my career up for success, and then I was able to translate that success into games like VALORANT and League of Legends. Fucking nothing in January. She was dry like the Sahara Desert. February, I did like 2 casts for Polaris. March is when things started picking up, because this is when Blast actually reached out. I was like, do you want to do EUL, LCQ in April? And I was like, do you want to do 2 days on the NA League? Like, yes, of course I want to do that. The NA League at the time was based in a Copenhagen studio, so that made it really easier. And then because I did really well during the EUL and I did well during the NA League, they were like, you can host a Copenhagen major for a few days. Me? What? And then they trusted me with the Copenhagen major for a few days, and then I hosted that. And that success was then, obviously the esports industry is super small. That success was noticed by other people. So then Valorant was like, they're gonna work for us. And I was like, yes. So I ended up doing VCT week 6, VCT EMEA. I ended up doing Game Changers. I did Ascension, and I also did EMEA LCQ ahead of the champs, ahead of champs. And it was a really, really great time, because whilst I was doing that, Ubisoft again had allowed me to host the Brazil League for them. So I was responsible for the Brazil League. I was doing a lot of stuff in Valorant. I was called to Berlin for EMEA Masters. I went actually to Gamers 8 and I hosted the Siege G8 tournament, which was incredible experience all on its own. And I was doing small bits and bobs here and there. Red Bull, because I worked with them in Manchester, they were very happy with how that went. They then invited me to do some of their League of its own work, which is where I worked with it's like the solo queue rank thing, where all the students come, top 1 rank of the competition from every country, then came to London. I worked that event for them. It went absolutely amazing. Made some connections there, leveraged those to try and get in on no, that was solo queue. Leveraged those to try and get in on League of its own, which was my final event of 2023, and that one was like a banger. But again, it was working these smaller events and building them up and getting noticed by one thing, which led to the other thing, which led to the other. Because being on EMEA Masters, of course, everybody who's working on the LEC is watching EMEA Masters, and then they were like, wow, she's not shit. Maybe we should get her on. And I was like, yep, you should. And that's literally how it went. It's not because I worked League of Legends and I streamed League of Legends that I got into the LEC, but it was because I worked different titles at different opportunities and different people noticed me. And then they were like, yeah, she's all right. We can get her. But yeah. And then I didn't shoot the bed. In 2023, I also once again was allowed to do the LEC Expo. This time around, I wasn't hosting the Expo because the Expo was being hosted in French because it was in France, but I got to do the video. And the video is absolutely insane. I think that was some of the most fun I have ever had hosting or working any esports event. It was like full creative freedom. They're like, here's your cameraman, here's your light guy, here's your audio guy, skedaddle. And then I got to make a joke about deleting Yumi from the game. Don't have to tell me twice. So that was really, really fun. And again, that's proved to the people who are working on these projects that I am not dog shit and I can actually like hold my own. Finished off with going to Brazil for the Game Changers Championship 2023. And again, I didn't shit the bed. So people were like, okay, we can, give her more. And that's kind of how esports work, where you do like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. And you should never look at an event and be like, I don't want to work it because it's not like big enough, or the pay is always going to be depending on like whether or not like you feel comfortable doing that. I did say no to a gig in one of the countries of my dream because the pay was like, I couldn't do it, like I couldn't justify it. But especially but at that point I was also like a little bit more established, but especially when you're starting out, the pay, the notoriety, the amount of viewers you think you're gonna get is not important. I leveraged my work from this university scene all the way to the LEC. And doing that consistently and consistently showing up on a broadcast and consistently being kind to people, for consistently growing your connections, growing your network, growing your following on social media, because y'all be laughing at me for being like, hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Nobody watched my vlogs. Like, yeah, I know 200 people watch my vlogs, and I know to a lot of people that's like nobody, but having the opportunity to leverage different things and show different things within your skill set is always going to be so valued. So that's that. I hope that breaks down your question in terms of how I got to the LEC, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, because I got another video coming up, and that is the AMA video. I asked you guys on Twitter and on Instagram to ask me questions, and my God, did y'all deliver. Like, you guys are nosy, but like, I respect it. If you're really fucking nosy, you can go and watch my vlogs from like day one. It's kind of like set out step by step what I did. I also have a video about starting out in esports. Thank you guys for watching. See you next week.